and it looks like we've got a good group amassing. So in the interest of your time, I'll kick things off. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Shaena Furlong. I am the acting co-CEO with the Richmond Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the Richmond Chamber of Commerce operates on the traditional territories of the Musqueam First Nation. They have lived on this land for millennia, and we're grateful we can gather even virtually here today. Now, first, I'd like to go over some housekeeping with you. This is a webinar format, so everyone's on mute and you don't have to worry about your camera being on, but we are encouraging questions. So you should see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please submit any questions you have for our presenters through that Q&A there. We are going to get through as many questions as we can today, as many as we have time for. If you run into any technical problems during the presentation, please reach out to me via the chat function. At the Chamber, we acknowledge and appreciate the support of our partners, our presenting partner, Kwantlen Polytechnic University, and partners Scotiabank, YVR, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, PLLR Lawyers, WorkSafe BC, and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan. Now that the housekeeping is out of the way, it is time to introduce our presenters for the day. Nikhil Thomas is a job developer for WorkBC. As a job developer, Nikhil's daily responsibilities include helping job seekers with career planning and employment search, sourcing qualified candidates for employers, and coordinating hiring events. Nikhil is also fluent in Malayalam and Tamil. We are also joined by Nancy Wang. She is the Community Outreach and Marketing Specialist at WorkBC Richmond. Nancy is actually our main presenter for the session on April 29th in Mandarin, and she's responsible for building connections in the local communities, managing all the in-house marketing campaigns, and facilitating WorkBC Richmond informational presentations to local communities. WorkBC itself is the provincial government's access point to the world of work in British Columbia. It was created with one goal: to help all British Columbians successfully navigate BC's labor market. WorkBC helps people find jobs, explore career options, and improve their skills. They also help employers fill jobs, find the right talent, and grow their business. Today, I'm very interested in finding out how WorkBC can help us hire back with government incentive. Without further ado, I will turn it over to our presenter, Nikhil.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Shaena. That was a great introduction, and that was a lovely welcoming. So once again, my name is Nikhil. I work as a job developer with the WorkBC Center in Richmond. So I work out of our second location, number 5 and Stevenson Highway. So today I have my colleague, Community Outreach and Marketing Coordinator Nancy with me, and also my fellow job developer, Charles Chu. He's working out of number 3 and Granville location. I'm just going to share a PowerPoint with you. Just bear with me for a second. I hope everyone can see my PowerPoint. All right, so before I go into We Subsidy, I'd like to share a few information about the WorkBC Center itself. I'm pretty sure most of you are aware of WorkBC and its services, but still, WorkBC is the provincial government access point to the world of work in British Columbia. It was created with one key goal: to help all British Columbians to successfully navigate BC's labor market. In a nutshell, we would like to support local residents to find sustainable long-term employment. This is focusing on employee services or job seekers, but still, as an employer, it will get to have an idea about what are the other services we provide. So as WorkBC, we provide one-on-one employment planning, job search and career exploration workshops, self-employment program, job development, that include 2 pieces. One is We Subsidy program and one is We Unpaid Work Experience. We also offer skill enhancement services, occupational training and short-term training, financial support, which include transportation, clothing, and tools. And finally, we offer hiring events and employment forums. Today, this PowerPoint is strictly based on We Subsidy program, but still, if time permits, I will definitely go over with some of the programs that may be beneficial for the employers as well. What is We Subsidy? The WorkBC We Subsidy program is an opportunity for employers to rehire laid off employees, hire new employees, and connect with WorkBC clients looking for work experience and job opportunities. Benefits of We Subsidy. This is the most important thing that all of you may want to know about, because what it does for an employer. It covers a portion of employees' wage, provide disability supports to reduce work-related barriers for an employee, rehire or recall laid-off employees, offer flexibility and support in the way that you deliver training to a new employees, assistance with the development of training plans and job postings. It reduces the cost of hiring and training a new employee. It's important to know the benefits to clients as well when you are going on a We Subsidy. So the clients will gain job training, and they also get paid work experience opportunities, possible long-term employment options, gain new skills while receiving on-the-job training and earning a wage, utilize transferable skills to obtain a job where they lack experience or certification. So when We Subsidy was initially found, the idea behind was to support clients to get back to workforce, get training. If they are lacking some sort of experience or credentials, certifications, they could utilize this program to gain to gain experience while they're getting paid. In the beginning, like prior to 2020, November 16, only certain people were eligible for it, precisely people who were on AI, and then PWD, people with the disabilities, people with multiple barriers, and other income assistance program. But from November 2016, the government has made a change to it. So now all unemployed British Columbian residents are eligible for We Subsidy. Being that said, again, we do have a system in place where they will have to meet with an employment counselor. So our process start, I'll go in detail later on, just to give you a brief detail, a glimpse of how the process would be. They will meet with, the first thing they will do is they will register for WorkBC service. So we do have an online portal called the Online Employment Services, OES. If you Google it, you will see the same details in there as well. Once they go into OES, they will register for the WorkBC service and they get to choose which sender they would like to work with. We do have 102 offices across British Columbia. Depending on where they live, they could choose the closest of the nearest WorkBC center. And once they once they complete the registration process, they will receive a phone call from our front desk staff, and they could book an appointment with one of our employment counselor, or you could say case managers. In our terms, it's employment counselors. Once they book an appointment with the employment counselor, they will meet with them, and the employment counselor will help the client to develop an action plan. Based on the action plan, if the client decided to look for a work and required We Subsidy support, they will then connect with a job developer, in this case, which is myself. And if they decided to go for like a continuous schooling, and if they wanted to pursue some sort of master's, or like let's say some other like a degree or certifications, the employment counselor can guide on them there as well. But when it comes to We Subsidy, that is where the decision is being made, how this We Subsidy program will benefit the candidate, and who will be the primary point of contact. And and we also provide a marketing letter to the candidate who is looking for work. So that We Subsidy marketing letter will help the candidate to find the right employer who can support him, to offer a job that could utilize the We Subsidy to find a sustainable employment. Here are some facts about employer eligibility. This is something you definitely wanted to know about. One of them is it has to be a BC registered business, be compliant with all applicable legislation, including the Employer Standards Act, Workers' Compensation Act, Income Tax Act, the Employment Insurance Act. Since WorkBC We Subsidy is different from Canadian Emergency We Subsidy, we would not request an employer to provide any CRA documentation, any tax informations, and that's why we wanted to make sure that you are in a good standing with the WCB. Be at arm's length from the WorkBC Employment Services contractor and potential employee. What is it referring to is as long as there is no relation between the employee and the employer, like there is no relationship between the person who is hiring and the person who is applying, then they most likely be eligible for the We Subsidy. Or for a full-time position, I will go in detail. I'm pretty sure some of you wanted to know about short-term works. Some of you probably have questions about the seasonal jobs. We will cover that in the Q&A session, but for now, the employer eligibility for a We Subsidy is to have a full-time position of approximately 35 hours per week, unless the client has a special need for fewer hours per week, and this needs to be documented. And that client must be a case managed client. This is something that I've explained earlier. Being case managed means they have to be registered with the WorkBC first and meet with an employment counselor. That process is itself being called case management. So there are two type of We Subsidies available. One is employer identified We Subsidy. So which means if an employer identify a candidate and you think you wanted to bring him on board or her aboard, but at the same time would like to seek We Subsidy, in that case, you can submit an application through our online portal, or you can reach out to, like I mentioned, any of our sender and then request for assistance. And the same way, if we identify a candidate, we can connect with you and do the same process. And either way, we are trying to help the client to secure a job and get the assistance of financial support, just to make sure that the person get trained on the job, so that way they don't have to look back. Moving on to the next page of employer eligibility. Offer insurable employment as defined by the Employment Insurance Act. Offer a position where the job and work are primarily done in BC. Not fill a position vacant because of layoff, other than by filling it with the laid off person unless the person declines the position. Let's say if you have, many of the companies during this time laid off a lot of employees because of the financial hardship. We all understand that situation. It is a stressful situation for everyone, not just for employers, for employees too. Like a lot of people are going through a hard time. So what WorkBC look into when it comes to We Subsidy application is you're not laying off candidates to hire somebody to put them on We Subsidy. If you have laid off, let's say you had a office admin position and you have laid off that candidate because of the financial hardship due to COVID, and then you wanted to fill that position again. So what we are looking into is, have you given that opportunity to the person whom you laid off? Have you reached out to them before you hired a new person for the same position to apply for We Subsidy? Confirm that the client is not an existing employee of the employer. Confirm that no workers will experience reduction in hours or be laid off as a result of the We Subsidy placement. So those are all connected. Offer the likelihood of long-term employment or provide needed work experience. Pay reasonable, competitive wages that are reflective of the prevailing wage rate. Employer exclusion. So these are the list of employers that are not eligible for We Subsidy through WorkBC. Be either the government of BC or the government of Canada. Be considered public sector, including municipalities, schools, public universities and colleges, hospitals, health authorities, or other government entities. Offer employment based on 100% commission or piecework. This is something I often get at. Do sales job. We wanted to be specific on the kind of sales job employers wanting to offer to employee or the job seeker for We Subsidy. If you're referring to a retail job and you're paying a minimum wage, or you're honoring the base pay, if it is minimum wage or above minimum wage, definitely you should be eligible for We Subsidy. There is no restriction for that. As long as it's not 100% commission job, such as like giving an example of let's say um, vehicle sales, right? Sometimes there is no base pay, it's 100% commission. So those sort of jobs won't be eligible for wage subsidy. Employment, including some earnings based on commission or piecework, may be supported, but the client must be paid a guaranteed labor market wage. What it is referring to is, let's say you work at one of the retail store where if you sell a product, you get a commission. So, but you are earning a base pay as well. So if you have $15 as a base pay and you're still getting commission on top of it, that is acceptable and will be eligible for wage subsidy. Be an active WorkBC client participating in self-employment services. Be in receipt of the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, CEWS, or other wage subsidy funding for the same client WorkBC will be subsidizing during the same period. I will cover that in the Q&A session about how these are different, how you can apply for a wage subsidy through WorkBC without affecting your Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, because I'm pretty sure like many of you probably have that in place and you're receiving funding from the federal government as a wage subsidy support, but we want to make sure that you're not submitting application for the same client for both CEWS and WorkBC at the same time. So wage subsidy application, how are you planning to submit the application to WorkBC? You have two ways. You can either submit an online application form, or you can contact a WorkBC center near where your business is located. So online application form, I would be happy to share a video with you. So we will see the video, we'll watch the video first and then we'll come back and then I'll go over the details of the difference between online application form and for the regular paper application or e-document. So I'm just gonna stop sharing this PowerPoint for a second. Let me share a video with you. All right, everyone. So I'm just gonna put back my presentation again. Just give me 1 second. So what you have seen on that application was mainly for a person. Let's say if you identify a candidate and you wanted to submit an application, you could follow through that step and then submit an application. What usually happens when you submit an online application, when employer identify a candidate and you submit the application to We Subsidize to the WorkBC Center, the candidate that you've mentioned on the application form, you will need to add a candidate email address. Let's say you identify a candidate and you add that candidate email address to that application. The candidate will receive an email stating that they need to register for WorkBC services under self-service, and then they will need to complete the process. So once they complete the process for registering WorkBC services, we will be reaching out to employer and gather 2 documents from them. So usually we generate the form and send it to employer. So from employer side, employer needs to fill out 2 documentation. One is employer services application form. That's number 1. Number 2, wage subsidy agreement. These are the 2 forms that need to be filled out by employer. If an employer identified a candidate submitting for a We Subsidy application, then employer needs to fill out only 2 forms. If it is a WorkBC identified candidate, which means, let's say we identify a candidate and we are completing the paperwork on behalf of the candidate, then the candidate needs to submit 2 more documents. The same, just like the employer application form, there are 2 forms for candidates. One is candidate employee services application form or candidate services application form, and a We Subsidy agreement from the candidate side. So in a nutshell, again, we got 4 documents to be filled, 4 application forms to be filled in order to complete the process of We Subsidy. And once they complete the application forms, it will get reviewed by the center manager, and they will make a decision on the approval. So the next question comes is, when do I get to know when this is approved? Usually the time that you submit application, and once we receive it, we review and do an assessment. If there are any corrections needs to be made, if new documents need to be added on, then we will let you know. But usually, a week time is good enough to complete the whole process. So here the application process, like you've seen on the video, you will need to supply some basic information about your business, such as contact information, address, and CRA business number. And you will have to answer questions such as, do you have a third-party liability coverage? Do you have a WorkSafe BC coverage? Do you meet the eligibility criteria? So it's gonna, how do you know if you meet the eligibility criteria? There will be questionnaires on their application form. It will ask you for certain questions, and it will also ask you for a rationale. Why are you submitting an application for We Subsidy for this particular client? And you can fill in all those questionnaires. And like I mentioned, once we receive the first application form, the eligibility is determined as soon as we receive the employer services application form. That's the first form that you need to fill out as an employer. As soon as we receive that, we will go over the details on it, and we look for the rationale and find out why the employer is submitting an application for We Subsidy, and if it is reasonable, and if it justifies the reason for applying We Subsidy, then most probably we will get your approval for We Subsidy. So that's about the We Subsidy application form. So you have seen the online application form, and you've seen the application process. And now I just wanna share another service with you that we offer within WorkBC, which is a job start. WorkBC provides financial support to eligible clients beginning a new job when they do not have a financial means to cover some costs. A confirmation of employment is required. What is this program is all about? Let's say you have a company, like you are in the warehouse industry or you are in the construction. You would like to have the employee to have steel toe boots or hard hat or high vest or jacket or whatever the requirements are for the particular job. If they have to wear certain clothing, we could support that as well. So which means if a candidate is struggling, they don't have financial means to cover the cost. It's all upfront cost, right? They have to buy all these gears and clothes prior to the start date. So obviously, we can, they need support, and we can definitely offer them that support, to cover the cost. So this is something I wanted to share as well, along with the We Subsidy, because even though it's not really part of the job, We Subsidy application, you can submit it along with the We Subsidy application, but this is mainly for employees or the job seekers. But I still wanted to share with employers, since you will be advising the candidate, hey, you need to have so and so for, to start the job. So it will be nice to know that this is something that we offer at our center, so that way you can advise your, job seekers, hey, this program is available through WorkBC, and if you were to get a, work gear and clothing, you can talk to us. And one of the things that we've noticed here is I haven't covered about the percentage on how much you're eligible. I'm pretty sure that all of you wanting to know what are the percentage of money that we are eligible for, and how do we do the assessment, and how do we approve the We Subsidy application based on the percentage that an employer requesting for. Prior to that, I would like to share one more thing with you. When we mentioned about the application process, I would like to point out that WorkBC wouldn't support retroactive We Subsidies, which means we need to complete the entire application prior to the first day of work. So all this has to be documented before they go on the payroll. So that's why I was mentioning to you, a week time is definitely required for us to complete the process. And some of the other things that we've done, we had job fairs in 2021. This is something I mentioned to you with the other, under other services. I've told you the events that we host. This is also giving an opportunity for employers, to be part of our events, and then do a presentation about your services and get to know the candidates. And we usually host hour-long events. Employers come over and they do presentation about their company, their best practices, and their recruitment procedures, current open positions, and also about the benefits. So this way, the candidates get an opportunity to, talk to you directly and get to know the company, introduce themselves. So these are great events that we've hosted this year. I also have a few other events that I didn't have space to add it in here, but let me see if I didn't have it. So, but we had a few other events. We've hosted one with the Great Little Box Company, and I'm pretty sure some of you heard about them. So Great Little Box Company and Amazon is another one that we've hosted. We also hosted one with Bayshore. Bayshore is a home healthcare facility. They were hiring for a few roles, so we invited them and we hosted an event with them as well. So this kind of events will definitely give an employer an opportunity to meet with the local candidates and bring potential talents on board. So now I would like to cover the We Subsidy rates. Let's go over the WorkBC clients and the priority clients in here. So the WorkBC clients, the first 8 weeks is so altogether you get 24 weeks of We Subsidy. Again, it's subject to We Subsidy, WorkBC's decision, because not all of them are eligible for 24 weeks We Subsidy, and there is a reason behind it, because it's all based on the candidate's background and the employer's job requirements. If a person, let's say you were to hire an accounting clerk, and the candidate who is already working in the industry as an accounting clerk, but laid off because of some reasons, and he is getting back to the workforce in 2 months, then that person obviously has prior experience and relevant recent experience. So there is like a limitation on getting that 24 weeks done, but at the same time, this is something I have to share with you because you will find the same information online as well. We have a 24 weeks time frame. In the first 8 weeks, you will be eligible for 50% of the subsidy up to 500 weekly. And second 8 weeks, you may receive 25% of subsidy up to 250 weekly. Final 8 weeks, 15% of subsidy up to 150 weekly. If you add this all up, it comes to 24 weeks or 6 months. But we don't go by months, we go by the week. So first 8 weeks, let's say if it is Monday to Friday, then like starting from today, Monday to Friday, so we consider that week. So the week ending on Friday. But in some cases, some employers they work on weekends too, so we consider that as Sunday, and then we calculate from there for the next 8 weeks, and we offer that 50% subsidy. So 50% weekly means up to a maximum of 500 weekly, or whichever is less. So the reason why that 500 is in there, there is a monthly cap, or I should say 4 weeks cap, which is $2,000. The maximum you're eligible for is $2,000, which includes mandatory employment-related costs. So mandatory employment-related costs are EI, CPP, WCB, and vacation pay. So those are the 4 other costs that we cover. So for priority clients, the explanation is actually on the bottom. The priority clients category includes youth age 16-30 and individuals with a disability, either persons with a disability designation through the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, or who have had a disability confirmed through WorkBC Center. So for WorkBC clients and priority clients, the percentage is different. First 8 weeks is 75% subsidy up to a 750 weekly. Second 8 weeks, 50% subsidy up to a 500 weekly. Final 8 weeks, 25 subsidy up to 250 weekly. So these are the 2 main differences between WorkBC clients and the priority clients. All right, so I think I'm pretty much done with all the details in here. And so when I mentioned about WorkBC hiring events and job start, if an employer is interested in joining hands with us and like to join our employer events, they're most welcome to do that. You can reach out to, we have, like I mentioned, we have 2 job developers working currently, and we also have a customized job developer working from our firm. So if you if you are an inclusive employer and would like to support people with a disability, we can definitely help you with that too. I mean, if you're willing to give them an opportunity, we can introduce you our job developer there, and they could help you develop an action plan for the people with the disability and support the employer to bring that person on board. I'd like to share one more video about what the local employers are talking about the WorkBC services, and then I will pass it on to Shaena. So we have been successfully employing a lot of people. Some of you, I don't see the names in here, but we probably have worked with you, but we've been actively employing a lot of people with local companies. And we also work with, Vancouver, Delta, Burnaby, and sometimes, Surrey area too, depending on how far the candidates would like to travel. So one of the success story that I'd like to share with you is we've employed a candidate with a local business here in Richmond. The reason why I would like to share that with you is because it's good to know what kind of candidates that we deal with and how beneficial, how the process would be beneficial for an employer like you. Because when you reach out to WorkBC Center, the first thing that we do is we check out your job description, make sure that we have the right potential candidate for you. When we do that, we are actually screening through our database to make sure that we are sending you the right candidate, not just a random resumes. So because that's gonna increase, or that's gonna take a lot of your time to process it to find out who will be the right fit. When you submit an application, when you submit a job posting online, Indeed, WorkPulse, Monster, WorkBC.ca, JobBank.ca, no matter which website you are depending on, obviously you will get resumes. You will be swamped with a lot of resumes. Whereas when you reach out to WorkBC Center, since it's there is no cost for the employer nor for the job seeker, what the first thing we do is we screen it. We screen it, make sure that our candidate's background matches with your job description, and we send you that. So we are actually reducing your pain of going through the entire resume. So we get you the best potential talent available in the market, which will definitely bring value to your team. So I'm just going to share this video with you.
Hello, my name is Victoria, and I am the office manager at Richmond Glendale Physiotherapy. Our clinic here at number 2 in Glendale was opened at this location in 1992, and it was known as Pacific Sports Physiotherapy, where we had 4 physiotherapists and 2 receptionists. In 2017, it was purchased by one of the physiotherapists, Tammy Godfrey, and today we have 13 practitioners, 8 client coordinators, some full-time and some part-time. We've also expanded our services. We used to primarily only offer physiotherapy, and now we offer physio, kinesiology, and massage therapy. With the expansion of the different services, our clinic has definitely gotten much busier. A typical day, we are helping many clients on the phone, in person, and responding to emails. We're helping them with their ICBC, WCB claims, and private claims, and expired claims, scheduling, and medical records, and coordinating with their adjusters and lawyers, as well as maintaining the clinic's day-to-day housekeeping. We've seen a lot of people that want to get into the health industry, and we are happy that we can provide this workplace for them, where they can learn many of the basic administration in health industry and physiotherapy, kinesiology, and the massage industry as well. We were introduced to WorkBC through a candidate that applied to us, and we're very grateful for that. With the help of WorkBC's job developer, Nikhil Thomas, who guided us the procedure and introduced us to another candidate who we probably wouldn't have connected otherwise. This candidate has been an amazing addition to our team, and we are very grateful for that. We have been helping people work towards building the job that they want. We would definitely recommend WorkBC program to any individual or any company looking to hire some amazing people. If you have any questions or want to know more about our clinic, please visit www.richmondphysio.ca.
All right, here comes to an end. So that was pretty much it. I'd like to pass on to Shaena. Please feel free to ask any questions you have, and I'll try, my best to answer all of your queries. And if there are questions that I'm unable to answer, I'll definitely make a note of it and get back to you with a proper response. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Nikhil. I think we've all learned a lot. I've learned a lot. Now we're going to drill down into some questions to get even more out of your brain. So my first question is how this program relates to the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So you shared that this isn't suitable for clients who are also going to be covered by the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So if you're planning to apply for Qs for your employee, you shouldn't also be working with WorkBC for this program. Can you tell me a bit about why this program might be preferable in some instances for new employees that an employer is bringing on if they're already working with Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. Does that make sense?
Right. So for Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy was, found, I think, after the COVID. It's part of the COVID relief, I believe. I don't have much details about the CEWS since that requires a lot of details. And plus, there is a set of criteria that you have to meet. When it comes to WorkBC's wage subsidy, how that's going to be helpful for clients is that WorkBC wage subsidy was never found because of COVID. It was there before, and now the only difference that from the past to now is, like I mentioned in the presentation, before it was only for EI and certain clientele group. Now it has changed. Now it's open for all unemployed British Columbia residents. When it comes to WorkBC's wage subsidy, what it is offering is a paid work experience. So the client, if they are lacking some sort of skills, certifications, it is going to help them to find a sustainable employment, plus they are gaining a set of skills. Whereas CWS, my understanding is that it's to keep that employee on a payroll and supporting financially, like employer. Here, the difference is you are getting a financial support. At the same time, the primary objective of providing wage subsidy is to help the candidate to gain experience and secure a long-term employment, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Thank you. And a big component of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy is proof of revenue decline from pre-pandemic times. So with this wage subsidy, is there any requirement for an employer to prove that their revenue declined? If my business is already recovered or maybe never took a dip, is this a good option for me?
Right, that's a great question, Shaena. Thank you. We don't ask for any CRA documentation at all. We don't ask for T2 schedule 100, 125 or total net income, or how many, what kind of percentage you were earning last year. None of these questions being asked during our application process. The only thing that we are keen about is finding out if the employer is in a good standing with the WCB. That's something that we really care about. We want to make sure that the employer is in a good standing with the Work Compensation Board. That's number one. And WorkSafe BC, and all the other legal entities, they are in a good standing. As long as the employer is in a good standing with all the legal authorities, then there shouldn't be any problem. And going back to the question, we would not ask for any sort of income proof from employer.
That's great. Thank you. And now a quick follow-up question. I think you and I spoke about this last week, but how long does a business need to be in existence before it would be eligible for this subsidy?
A minimum of 12 months, so 1 year should be good enough.
That's great. And you know what, that's probably really good for a lot of businesses that might have started during the pandemic, because in many instances, they are not eligible for existing wage subsidy programs. So as they're kind of in that startup phase and they want to hire new workers on, this could be a great tool for them to have that cost subsidized a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. So if they have completed 1 year, obviously this is going to definitely help them. And I've had companies that I've worked with completed 1 year and reached out to me because they wanted to, keep the candidate. For the new candidates, they wanted to offer them a paid work experience, and but at the same time, they was in a good financial standing to to bring that employee on board. And we helped multiple companies like that, especially in Richmond. So I think this will be a great initiative for employers to use.
That's great. And now when we were talking about the employer directed program, so as an employer, if I've already identified a candidate that I'd like to hire, but I want to first see if they're eligible for this program and bring them through the program, I know that it has to be in place before the start date. How long does it typically take to process an application? So if I've identified my employee, I want to bring them on maybe as soon as possible, how long do you think it is from the time I enter that application form that you showed us the video of to the time that I'm able to bring them on?
As soon as, so we request all employers to notify us as soon as possible once you identify an employee. You don't have to do it online. You can reach out to our sender. We can definitely help you complete the entire process. But being that said, sometimes even though employers submit an application, but the registration for employees, the job seeker or the identified candidate might take a little bit longer. Depends on how fast and what kind of technical like equipments they have. Sometimes they don't have access to the the computer or the laptop or internet. I just have to mention that too. In case if any of your candidates doesn't have access to computer, they can book an appointment with the WorkBC Center, use our facility to complete this process. So once they do it, I would say a realistic number would be at least 5 to 7 days. But we try our best. In most scenarios, we complete everything in 2-3 days or 4 days. But we still say like 7 days is the best practice, because that gives enough room for everyone to do their part, right? So
that is really fast. Thank you. Now, you spoke about this earlier, but we have a question from Kimson, who asks about the wage rate. So to me, it looked like the salary for the max subsidy to get sort of the most bang for the buck would be about $48,000 a year. Now, would this apply to wages that were maybe beyond that? Maybe I'm hiring an engineer and they're starting at $80,000 a year. Could I still work with this program, but just obviously have a lower percentage of the wage covered?
So regardless of which position you are hiring for, that was a great question, Shaena. Because I worked with an engineer too, so I know that the wage was around, I believe, 84 or 85, somewhere there. It was a non-company in Richmond. I don't want to go into the details, but at the same time, the reason why the company requested for wage subsidy, there was a rationale. It wasn't just an employer identified, it's more than that. The job seeker was laid off 2 years ago because of the industry was hit by a financial trouble, and then they had to lay off people, and he was having a hard time to find an employment, and this employer was willing to give. So there was a gap in his experience and the time he found the job. So obviously that is a very good rationale for an employer to seek wage subsidy. And for that, $85,000, like I mentioned, the maximum they would be eligible is $2,000 for 4 weeks. So they can still get that covered. That if their reasons are justifiable, and then if they have documents properly signed, and then they could seek for that $2,000 for sure.
That's great. Thank you. And now this question is from Hermanus. They ask, what's the max time limit for the wage subsidy? I think you said 24 weeks. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah, maximum time limit for the subsidy is 24 weeks. Yeah.
And so this program was expanded in 2020 to apply to job seekers who were not from those traditional streams. So not people with disabilities, not people on EI. Is there a limit on how long that expansion is in place, or is that indefinite?
It's depend on the ministry, I should say. The notification that we have right now, this is open for any unemployed person in British Columbia for now, unless ministry makes any changes. We will notify accordingly. But for now, everyone is eligible. But when I say everyone is eligible, there is a process in place. They have to meet with the employment counselor for sure. They have to be a WorkBC registered client. And once they meet with the employment counselor is where the eligibility is confirmed. For me, I could just generalize and say most of them are eligible, but I cannot guarantee that until they meet with the an employment counselor, because that's where they have to go through the details and find out if this client is actually eligible.
Okay, got it. Now, this question comes from Kevin Kondo, And he's asking if, I think it's the Job Start program, does it apply to industry related tools? He's in telecom with Santel, and often new hires have no cash to invest in the hand tools needed for the position.
Right, I've noticed that too. That's a great question. Thank you. Yes, I mean, it's not really particularly based on an industry. It's open for anybody who like to seek support for a job start. If they don't have financial means to cover the upfront cost, they could reach out to any of the WorkBC center. And again, they have to go through the same process, register for the WorkBC, and then provide us with a letter of a job, the letter of employment, and then we will do the assessment, and based on the requirements of the job. So I've helped, personally speaking, I've helped an electrician. So he was starting recently, like this happened almost 3 months ago. So he just started, and he definitely required some tools, and the company who was going to hire him listed the hand tools that required for him to have at the job site. So they listed that on the letter of employment. So these things are required. So what we did is we did the assessment and find out how much he was eligible for. And so there is a maximum amount, which I cannot really mention right now, but there is a maximum amount for it, and that will be determined when they meet with the employment counselor. So that employment counselor will definitely go over the details and then let them know, hey, you will be eligible for this much amount, and we could help you with that. Usually we get, depending on where the products are available. If it is just a work gear, work clothes, we usually go to the marks and get the the necessary products for them. And unless if it is something that we have to get from other stores, it's still fine. We can definitely support them. So it's not really specific to a particular industry. It's open for pretty much anybody. Yeah.
That's great. So it sounds like employers who are facing that problem frequently should probably get in touch with you or one of your colleagues at WorkBC to maybe get a standardization in place for employees who need help getting those needed tools or equipment for their job. Now, this question is also from Kevin. He's asking now about training programs for industry. So about 15 years ago, he had a couple of young hires that they got partial funding for training into the industry. So does WorkBC deal with any of that if he has identified some folks who need a bit of extra training to get onto the job?
So we do have a skills training package. I am not in a position to go in detail about it, but I do know that if the person is eligible, and so again, going back to the same procedure, when they meet with an employment counselor, they discuss with them and let them know, hey, I'd like to do these and these programs because I believe that I could get a job if I do this certification program. If that's the case, if he's eligible or she's eligible, the counselor can guide them and help them with the training package. But to answer that question, yes, WorkBC does support candidates to do trainings in order to secure a sustainable employment. And the other thing is, we also offer, in one of my slides, I've mentioned about the other services that we offer. We do have forklift training. We consider that as a short-term certificate training courses. So forklift or WHMIS or food safe, first aid, those kind of courses, yes, we do support for sure, because if that helps the candidate to secure a position, we can definitely help them to get that done.
Okay, and he has a quick follow-up. What about high lift operation training?
Again, it's all subject to decision of an employment counselor at the time when they meet with the candidate. If the candidate says, this is the course or certification that I require to find an employment, then the employment counselor will do an assessment with the client to find out if the person is eligible. That's the key in there, to find out if they're eligible. WorkBC can support for many of the training programs, and there is a cap for how much funding that we could offer, but that will be only discussed during the time when they meet with an employment counselor.
Okay, great. So if it's all right with you, Kevin, I think I'll supply your email address for our presenter today because it sounds like you have a lot of great questions that are probably best directed to the team. There's probably a good conversation that could happen there. Now I see another question has come in. This is from an anonymous attendee. So if an organization is already using the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, but they have identified a couple of new positions that they would place on the WorkBC grant instead of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, is that allowed?
Yes, that is a great question. So if they are receiving CEWS and if they wanted to bring a few people on board and seek wage subsidy through WorkBC, yes, it is possible, as long as you're not planning on to apply for this new candidates for the CEWS. So if you are not planning on to put them under CEWS, then it should be fine. WorkBC's wage subsidy start before the candidate actually go on your payroll. So this will be the first thing that's going to come, so to answer that question, yes, you will be eligible to do that. But I just want to add on, I'm pretty sure that some of you might have heard about this. The maximum that you could submit in a year is 10 applications. So that means we have a fiscal year starting from March all the way to April. So March to April, you can submit 10 applications. So even if you submit 10 applications through, like different WorkBCs, we still keep a track of it. So 10 is the maximum you could do, and 5 is the maximum you could apply at a time. Like let's say if you were to hire 5, production assistants, right? So that's the maximum you could do, 5 at a time, 10 per year.
Got it. And now I think we have time for one more question before we have to let you go. This question is from me. So we'd mentioned during your presentation around seasonal employees, and we're coming up to the month that a lot of businesses will take on students for the summer. How does this program intersect with seasonal work or work that is meant to be finite in its scope? So if I bring on a summer student, I'm going to be doing a lot of work to train them. I'm only going to have them for a short period of time. Would this program be suitable for that?
Sure. So for the seasonal, like we have 2 set of clientele. Like one is the general clients, and doesn't belongs to the PWD category, and for them, the full-time job has to be there. Mostly seasonal work, referring to a person with a disability if they are, looking for a short-term work, right? And to gain experience. In that case, we can still support them, but again, we have to, sit with them and find out and do the assessment. And if they are eligible, then obviously we could support them for the seasonal too. But again, it's subject to the WorkBC's decision on it. But in most scenarios, yes, it is doable.
Great, thank you. Well, I'd like to thank all of our attendees for joining us today on their lunch break today, and for so many great questions that we got through. I hope we covered enough that you feel like you have a really good understanding of this wage subsidy. But of course, our presenter, Nikhil, is available, as are his colleagues at WorkBC, for follow-up discussions. I'd really like to thank you, Nikhil, and Nancy for sharing that amazing information with us. I hope everybody learned something today. Before we part for the day, I would just like to let everyone know about our next upcoming event. Tomorrow, we are hosting our monthly networking power up. It's a great opportunity to do some of that focus networking. I know so many of us have missed during the pandemic. Details are available on richmondchamber.ca. And on Thursday, we are actually hosting another session of this webinar, but in Mandarin. And we are using the talents of Nancy Wang, Nikhil's colleague, to help us present that. So if you have colleagues or contacts who would be interested in this information, but prefer a Mandarin format, please help us spread the word. So once again, thank you so much, Nikhil. And for everyone else who joined us today, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Shaena. Nice to see you all. Thank you.